Nice, sunny, no rain, a little hot, but it's a beautiful day. We really thank you all for coming to this special event to honor our friend Bob Godke, Dr. Robert Godke, but Bob. I am Phil Elser, the associate. It's a huge honor for me to open this program. It is also very nice that you're here in our building, which a lot of your research efforts have helped levy support through the legislature that we needed to have a world-class animal, veterinary, and food science laboratory building. Because of work like yours, Bob, and your graduate students, we used all that information and you showed the legislature that agricultural sciences, especially animal science, is important. And that helped get this new building established. And also, for some of you, the Reproductive Biology Center, if you recall that, is still down at St. Gabriel. We still have animals down there. So, Bob, with a lot of your accomplishments, these two buildings were actually built on your research papers and efforts. And I thank you for that. There's a lot of other students. Yeah, the students, sure. Well, I know that. Trust me, they know it. I had a major professor too. Again, thank you for being here. Before I introduce the next guest, I have to tell a Dr. Godke story. Mine will be short, but you will appreciate it, I'm sure. The vet school asked if we would like to start teaching some special topics classes. And I'm not a repro ranger, I'm not a reproductive physiologist, biologist, whatever. I worked on brucellosis, so there's some reproduction issue there. And I thought, well, I'll teach a course on, portophagic diseases of ruminants. And I'll focus on brucella. 20 hours, that's all, short course. And I'm like, well, I can't remember if the students had how much embryology, how much reproduction, hormones, endocrinology they would have. So Fred Enright said, well, call Bob and have him do some lectures. Called Bob, I said, hey Bob, got this 20-hour course. Could you come in and, get the quick repro talk, and then we'll get started. You know where it's going, right? Quick? I said, yeah, I need you to do it for an hour. He said, okay. So time comes, and in walks Bob with a Xerox box of material. I'm thinking, what are we doing? And he's passing it out, half a ream of paper to each student. And I said, Bob, what are you doing? How long is it going to take to deliver that? He said, well, if you know what you're doing, 6 hours. If you don't, or if you know what you're doing, 4 hours. If you don't, 6. I said, but I told you, Bob. It's only for an hour. He said, you have a good 5 hours ahead of you, son. Yeah. At that point, I cut my lecture short. It was always fun having you as my guest lecturer in that course. The students loved it, and so did I. When you were here, you knew about education. You also knew about research. Now, you probably know about outreach and extension. Dr. Richardson, who I'll introduce in a moment, is the Dean of the College of Agriculture, and also he is the Director of Cooperative Extension and of the Ag Experiment Station. His vision has led us to actually perform one agriculture in this state. And no longer do we have the division of extension, research, and teaching. and that's why I get to stand here, because I'm a researcher. His vision, we have combined that into one agriculture. And that is helping all of us. It helps the college, it helps all of our stakeholders, it helps you as former students, but more importantly, the future students, so they can see what agriculture is. Not only is it the education you receive, what you do with your major professor, the research in the lab, but actually how you touch people in the community and the world. And with that, I would like to introduce my boss, Dr. Bill Richardson, the Vice President for Agriculture at LSU and at Louisiana State University College of Agriculture. Bill, I just picked that one
On behalf of LSU, I'm really pleased to see all of you here today. I know Bob is. Bob and I go back a very long way. My first tour of duty in the College of Agriculture, Bob's career was really, I think, at its height. And I always could tell when Bob had been around the state talking because my phone would start ringing. That's before we had cell phones and fax machines even. And I'd get cards and letters from students in the 8th, 9th, 10th grade thinking, I really want to come and study with this man. He would touch people no matter what age they were when he made his presentations. And we always knew Bob was on the road because about 3 days later the mail started to arrive and he was one of the most sought after speakers. As you know, this university has awarded him the Boyd Professor, and that's the highest rank any professor at LSU can achieve. And it's not one that's easily given. It's one that is truly based on the recognition of the individual and their accomplishments. But Bob, I think, in my opinion, has some honors even larger than the Boyd Professor, and that's his role as teacher. You notice the first thing he said when Phil was complimented, and this goes back to the students. And one thing about Bob Godke is he always put his students first in everything that he did. Those of you in the room, as one of the students you know, when you signed on, it was a 24/7, 7 days a week, commitment and passion for that program, because that's what Bob had. I don't think he ever slept. He had the students working either in the lab, in the field, in the classroom all the time. And he was the consummate teacher, constantly teaching and instructing. He's noted for his research accomplishments, but for many of us, we know Bob for what he did in the classroom, what he did with the students, what he did with the students after they left the program. As you found out, you never leave Bob's program. You just move somewhere else to work with what you're doing. And I don't think there's any higher accomplishment you can give somebody than to say that they were the teacher that set the gold standard. And for his entire career at the College of Agriculture, Bob set the gold standard as a teacher. And very few people have ever been able to make that level of accomplishment and the impact he had on the students that Bob Godke did. There's an old saying among those of us who grew up in teaching that the teacher is noted by their students. And I think it's going to be truer today to see some people here who owe their careers or lives to Bob for what he did for them in the classroom and what he did for them as a teacher, as a mentor. Sometimes making you work harder than you wanted to, but knowing that there was a reward at the end of being able to learn from one of the best. So Bob, on this day, we thank you for all you've done for the state, for this university, for your department, and mainly for what you did for these students. The good teachers truly noted by their students. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. We're going to move on with the program. As you know, this whole event couldn't be possible without the Repro Rangers and Beth working tirelessly to honor Bob through this scholarship event, and we all thank you for that, and I know he does, and Beth and the Repro Rangers. We're really grateful because this endowment will actually help enhance and bring bright students like yourselves here to LSU and carry on the mission of reproductive biology. With that, I'd like to ask Steve Poole to come forward, and I'm going to turn this over to the Repro Rangers for a while.
Thank you all for being here today. And first off, I'd like to make one correction to Dr. Richardson's speech, and that is that Bob expected 25 hours. And I think all of us in the room that studied under him understand what I mean when I say that. But anyway, I'd like to say greetings to Boyd Professor Emeritus Robert F. Godke Jr. and to his family that's here, friends, colleagues, and former fellow students. As one of Dr. Godke's former students, a group appropriately known as the Repro Rangers, it is my pleasure to be here today to celebrate and pay tribute to a man who has dedicated his life to teaching and mentoring hundreds of undergraduate students, graduate students, postdoctoral fellows, and visiting scientists all over the world. He has worked extremely hard to develop teaching methods to stimulate the interest of students from all walks of life. As a mentor, his passion for science and learning was instilled in all of us who have sought his guidance to develop work ethics that have made us successful in many walks of life. I first met Dr. Godke in the summer of '76. I had completed my Bachelor of Science degree the previous year and was working in a job that I knew was not something that I wanted to make my life's work. Dr. Godke provided me with an opportunity to do a special project after work at the laboratory in St. Gabriel. Little did I know that he was testing me to see if I had what it takes to enter the graduate program. That summer project changed my life. I am eternally grateful to him for providing me an opportunity that many other professors may not have given me a chance, since my grades and GRE scores did not put me in the top of the list of candidates for grad school. Dr. Godke's ability to bring out the best in each student is a quality not found in every professor, and I truly believe it is the key to his success as an educator and mentor. His work ethic and dedication to his students at times put the needs of his students ahead of his own. His dedication to the advancement of science helped his students develop techniques and procedures that have proven to be milestones in the scientific community and raised his status as a world-renowned scientist. The Rangers' track record in the workplace has led to a continual flow of jobs for new graduates sought after by professionals in various specialties. They know that each new graduate has the knowledge base, technical expertise, confidence, and work ethic to be a good employee. As a mentor, Dr. Godke challenged each and every student to work hard, study hard, and be part of a team. There are always others out there with a different idea or more knowledge on how to tackle a problem. Dr. Godke taught us that when asked a question or presented with a problem, research the literature, apply your knowledge, consult with your peers, formulate and tweak a hypothesis, design a plan, and proceed in finding a solution. Never be afraid to learn that the outcome may be different than expected, or that your hypothesis may have been flawed. Learn from your setbacks and always strive to improve with the next challenge. This philosophy is what I took away from my experiences at LSU and Dr. Godke's program. This philosophy has resulted in success in my career and life, and I am forever grateful. I want to personally thank Dr. Godke for believing in me and molding me into a confident person with a positive attitude. I feel confident that the LSU endowment that bears his name will provide support for future graduate students to study and learn at LSU. Hopefully, the values and ideals that Dr. Godke has shown as a scientist, teacher, mentor, and father will continue to guide the future men and women who will benefit from the endowment and a chance to study reproductive physiology. I feel honored to have been under his tutelage and have lasting friendships with fellow Rangers in the scientific, teaching, research, and commercial communities. All are confident professionals and consider Dr. Godke first as a mentor, but always as a supportive professional, colleague, and friend. Cheers to the first Ranger who has shown us the way to success. May the future continue to bring you fulfillment, that your knowledge and know that your legacy will carry on. All the best to you and your family.
Well, that was pretty heavy, Steve. I'm going to be a little bit lighter. I'm a single person now. I've been married a couple of times. But I got to tell you, Bob, I got to thank you for a lot of things. One is the best pickup line I've ever had or heard in my life. I have a PhD in toxicology, right? first graduate student at the School of Veterinary Medicine. But when I meet somebody, and they say, what do you do for a living? I say, well, I'm a toxicologist. I have a software firm. And if it's a woman, particularly attractive woman, I said, but my love is reproductive physiology. Bob, I met Bob in, I guess, '74. I took his advanced reproductive physiology class. It was fascinating. It was completely captivating. I thought that this is what I'm going to do. And it made a difference in my life. But, like Steve, I wasn't one of his first choices. He had a guy that he picked out, and he was great. His name was Andy. And he said, I can select one other person, but you've got to beat everybody on my exam. And as you know, he had cumulative exams. So it's actually probably the first and only time I really studied. He set aside 4 hours, Kool-Aid, cookies, you know, he's pretty kind about things like that. And I walked in, took the exam, went about 30 minutes, Bob, I got up, handed him the paper, he says, you sure you don't want to check anything? I said, can I have a cookie? Yeah. And I got a call Sunday. He said, well, Crouch, I don't know how you did it. In fact, I got a nickname in graduate school, it's called Skate. From then on, right, man? And I became a reproductive physiologist. I had my first little project. It was histamine. I had to write a proposal, and, you know, some sort of study program, and he was going to, you know, tell me what I was going to do and whether this would work or not. And gave it to him, and I waited a week, and I waited 2 weeks. And, so you couldn't see him until after 10 at night. So my wife always wondered what I was doing late, but I really was working. And I went up there and knocked on the door, and he didn't look up. You know, he's comes over his desk, and he's got the liquid paper and the little scraper, and he was writing perfect penmanship. And I said, Dr. Godke, he said, what do you want, Crouch? I said, well, I'm here to find out about my research project. And he says, well, I don't know. He said, well, have you looked at it? He says, no. I said, well, is there a problem? He says, I don't know. I said, well, where is it? He never looked up. He pointed to the trash can. He had 2 trash cans, one for the real trash and one for the almost trash. I was almost trash. So I fished it out, and it was all crumpled up. I thought it was a brilliant plan. I said, well, what's wrong with this plan? He said, Crouch, when you learn how to write legibly, I'll read what you have to say. Here are my notes. They're perfectly printed. I started the program and brought my son out. He was like 4 years old. We set him up so that he wouldn't get trampled or anything like that. And we were running cattle through and taking blood samples, imagine that. And, you know, everybody's chewing tobacco. I didn't chew tobacco, but, you know, everybody else did. And, you know, my son's watching everybody, and Bob comes around, and he just spits on my major professor's head. He goes like this, he says, nice kid. I knew I was going to have the hardest project. When we're taking blood samples, while I'm at it, you know, when you take a blood sample from a cow, their jugular's like a garden hose. You don't go under the skin, kind of nick it or whatever. So we had a graduate student out there, I won't say her name, and she was in parts physiology, but she was out there taking blood samples with us. So she took a vacuum cleaner, she got the needle, and she started squatting down, and we were all watching, you know, make sure she'd do it right. And she was kind of going under the skin, and Bob was trying to tell her what she needed to do. He said, lift the butt end up. And she stood up. were talking about this project. Bob would take people in like Steve or students that were going to vet school, and he would give them special projects, and everybody he required to share the project. So if a graduate student had one project, you were required to help it. And that way everybody learned surgery or this technique or that technique. Well, they had this young student who was trying to get into vet school. He was a nice kid. I almost can't remember his name, but it was early on. And Bob came with this idea of the electro anesthesia project. Now this sounds like a Nazi war horror thing, but it's not. But the whole purpose is you interrupt the pain receptors in the brain or whatever by putting little electrodes, not just under the skin, and adjusting amperage to like millivolts, and it would stop the pain, which this was great. It would put an animal on it, and you could do surgery, and it wouldn't feel anything, and when you're finished, you turned it off after you were sewed up. They didn't fall down because of the anesthesia, they were woozy, so this is the greatest thing. But always prepare for surgery, do it the same way all the time. Well, we had this graduate student. He didn't like me very much, but I was forced to work with him and help him on the surgery one day and put the animal under, and we were in a hurry, so we didn't tie the animal up. You know what's coming. And I'm on one side, it's not my project, and my graduate student Ken's on the other side. The animal's open, and the animal has electrodes, and she is out. And this is a crossbred Brahmin. We only got the culls. That's right, the crazy animal. And so we're sitting there, and we're talking, and we're moving along, we're zipping through this. We're going to have lunch, you know. You have roast beef sandwiches when you did surgery on cows. You had ham sandwiches when you did surgery on pigs. So we were sitting there, and the animal was laying on its back. This is a big animal. And it shook its head. And the electrodes popped out. You know how big the eyes of a squid are? That's how big this animal's eyes were when it realized it was being cut on. And Ken and I both froze. I don't know where the term asses and elbows came from, but I can tell you there were a lot of them. That animal got up, it charged us, it was bouncing around, we forgot to close the door to the hall, so it went down the hall. They had a laboratory, we heard glass breaking, girls screaming up on the counter. We went in there, we got the animal, subdued the animal, sew the animal up, the animal lived. The electro anesthesia project died. All right, that's my last. They have some good ones, but they might take away more. So, I'll tell you a few things. I basically had 5 fathers. First was my biological father, Samuel Jones Crouch. He was a war hero. After he died, my mother remarried, and I had a stepfather. His name was Bob. I was young, I was really little. They didn't think I was going to get over 4 feet high. Honest to God. So he said, you're going to be picked on all your life. And you're going to have to learn to fight. And you'll still be picked on, but you'll never be picked on by the same person if you fight. So I got the golden gloves and I fought. When I graduated from reproductive physiology, I got my nose fixed. It was the 5th time I had my nose broken, but that was on purpose. My third father was, his name was Bobby. He was my aunt's husband. I'd run away from home when I was 13. He took me in and was great. Taught me how to work. And I'm still alive today. I got married on my 19th birthday, and my 4th father, Thomas Frank, a Traeger carpenter. He taught me about animals in 425-acre spread in Norwood, Louisiana, and I worked animals and horses, and that's when I met Bob. 5th father. You know what I want to tell you about? When I was taught how to fight, I was told that, like I said, you're going to win and you're going to lose, but you always fight. And that's everything you continue to make. No matter what I do, no matter how I go in life, I never give up. Because you're one of the people that believe in me the most, you know, and congratulate you on everything that you've done. And I consider you one of the best people I know.
Richard.
Thank you, Phil. Well, it certainly is a pleasure for me to be back here at LSU after all these years. And it's also a pleasure to see a lot of familiar faces here. And I'm not going to take a whole lot of time because I know there are some other people that want to say a few words. But I also think this is an opportunity for those that were not intimately involved in the program to get a slight glimpse of what it really was about. The first thing I need to say is that my wife, Marina Sansinena, who did her PhD and a postdoc under Dr. Godke, very much wanted to be here, but we just couldn't schedule it. But as I say, she really wanted to come, and she sends her regards, her congratulations, and her love for LSU and the program, and for Dr. Godke. Now, I worked for and with Dr. Godke for 20 years, from 1986 to 2006, so I might have a slightly different perspective than the graduate students had, or certainly than they had during the program. But I'm pretty confident when I say I think their perspective changed after they finished the program. After they got through that hole in the needle, as Dr. Godke used to say, that you had to pass through, and then the whole world opened up to you, and you could start your careers. And as has already been mentioned, the graduate students were affectionately called the Rangers, the Repro Rangers. And although I was not technically a graduate student under Dr. Godke, I certainly feel like I was always and still am a Ranger. So over these 20 years that I worked with Bob, I think I got to know him pretty well as a boss, as a colleague, as a researcher, as a teacher, and as a friend. We spent a lot of time together, as did the graduate students. I remember in the early days we would meet up there in that cramped office up in Francione building, usually 11, 12, at night, 1, 2 in the morning. Had like 3 square feet of free floor space. Just enough to put a chair to sit and have a meeting with Dr. Godke. The grad students would be down in the basement working. Griff Blakewood in one of those tiny little meat lockers hovered over this newfangled Macintosh, churning out diagrams, charts, graphs, pictures, etc. We also traveled a lot together. One of the trips that comes to mind is, I think, the first of many trips that we made to South Africa. We were going there to work at the University of Stellenbosch, where Dr. Donnie Berry was on the faculty. Donnie's in this room today, came all the way from South Africa just for this event. This was many, many years ago, though, when it was, shall we say, a bit more challenging to get to South Africa than it is today. And I remember we had one of those grueling 36, 40-hour trips. Arrive in Johannesburg a little bit after midnight local time. We check into the hotel, and we're standing there, and I believe we're both thinking the same thing. We're looking over at that bar in the lobby, saying, you know, it's been a long trip, but I think we maybe should go in there and relax a little bit first. So we go in there, and probably about 3 in the morning or so, after we were sufficiently relaxed, we decided that it was time to call it a day, or 2 days, or 3 days, however long it had been since we had gotten any sleep. And Donnie had organized a 3 or 4 day trip to the Kruger National Park in the north of the country. And there was a van that was going to come and pick us up at 6 a.m. So we're talking like 2 hours or so. So as we're in the elevator, going upstairs, many of you probably know that Dr. Godke is not really a morning person. And by this time in my tenure with him, I was acutely aware of that. So we're in the elevator, and I start to get nervous, and a little worried, frankly, and I said, you know, Dr. Godke, I know you're my boss, but you better not oversleep tomorrow. Because I'm getting on that van, with or without you. I am not going to lose this opportunity to go to the Kruger party. Well, the next thing I know, Godke's over my bed. Richard, wake up. You're going to miss the van. You're going to miss the van. Wake up. I'm like, holy smokes, what happened? How could that happen? So I get dressed, grab all my luggage, run downstairs, get in the van. When I catch my breath, I turn over and I look at him, I say, Dr. Godke, how could you have possibly woken up before me? How could that happen? He just looked and said, I didn't go to sleep. Over the years spent with Dr. Godke, I began to realize what his objective was. And I understand with graduate students, some faculty members, and maybe even some administrators did not know what his objective was. And often perhaps wondered what is going on out there at St. Gabriel. Well, I'll tell you, I realized his objective was very basic and very, very simple. His objective was to motivate young people, to motivate his students to become successful. And we all have our own measures of success. Bob Godke measured his success on the achievements of his students. Bob Godke measured his success on the achievements of his students. Now, if that's not an educator, I don't know what is. And based on the number of people in this room and the amount of financial contributions that have been made by Rangers and others in a relatively short period of time, I think Bob's been pretty successful. And the other thing that has been mentioned a little bit here, that Bob had this unique ability to recruit a very varied cast of characters. My wife says he was able to recruit these misfits, oddballs, and what have you, and throw them in the mix out there at St. Gabriel and see what happens. So that's what my wife said. I'm not sure which category she considers herself. The misfits or the oddballs or perhaps the others. It's kind of like Captain Hook recruiting pirates. But it sure made for an interesting group, and there was never a dull moment. And we know that Dr. Godke's legacy goes far beyond his room and far beyond his graduate students. Because each one of those Rangers, whether they're university faculty members or administrators, scientists or leaders in the livestock industry, embryologists or laboratory directors at human fertility clinics, entrepreneurs, or whatever, have had and will continue to have a positive impact on society. And it is this legacy that we hope we can, in a small part, contribute to continue with the establishment of the Robert A. Godke, or the Bobby Endowed Graduate Scholarship. So I also want to thank you personally, Bob, for everything you've done for me, and for my wife and our family, and for all the people in the program.
Brett?
Uh-oh, Steve, I must have got my memos mixed up. I thought this was the roast. So, we're gonna got those 2 pages there.
My contact is inside out my left
And Rich, that needle that you spoke of, that hole in that needle, well, that hole was much smaller by the time I got to Dr. Godke. It is so wonderful to see all of you here today to honor our professor, our mentor, our advisor, for some of us, our brothers, our husband and our dad, Dr. Bob Godke. I want to start by thanking Dr. Steve Poole and Klaus Wiemer for their efforts in taking the lead to help us all establish the Robert A. Godke Jr. Endowed Graduate Scholarship. I also want to thank you, Ms. Bonnie, for inviting me to say a few words today, which I feel is quite an honor. But Hell, Dr. Godke, I didn't even think you liked me that much. I'll talk more about that later. But Dr. Godke, what a legacy you have created in your 40-plus year career here at LSU. All of us that have been a part of your program over the years are absolutely delighted to be able to honor you in perpetuity with the creation of this endowed scholarship. And we're well on our way of reaching our fundraising goal to establish not one, but 2 scholarships with the generous donations of so many former students, colleagues, and friends of the program, along with matching funds from the LSU Foundation. This truly is an outstanding day for our program, for the Rangers, for LSU, and especially for our leader, Dr. Godke. I am so proud of being a Repro Ranger, so proud of each and every one of us that have made it through the program, and so proud of you, Dr. Godke. It's hard to believe that it was over 20 years ago that I had my first contact with the good professor, but I can remember it like it was just yesterday. See, coming from New Orleans, I'd never seen a cow, a horse, a goat, or a pig in real life before starting my master's program with it. I did have a dog, but I knew, though, that I wanted to learn mammalian embryology so that one day I could go out in the world and direct a human IVF lab. And I was told that the best place for me to learn those skills was to go enroll in grad school with Dr. Godke at the reproductive physiology program in the Department of Animal Science at LSU, only 65 short miles away from home. So I picked up the phone, and after what seemed like forever for me to try to convince Dr. Godke that he should take a chance on me, he finally agreed to accept me. However, he did tell me that my GRE score was not very impressive, and that I would not be eligible for an assistantship because of that. You know, it took me 2 long years to finally get that assistantship, and he made me split it with 3 other students. That's the truth. Yeah. So anyway, Dr. Godke told me what classes I needed to enroll in for that first semester, and said he'd let me know what classes I would need to take in the second semester if I made it that far. So bidding farewell to family and friends shortly thereafter, I headed west to Baton Rouge for my first semester. And I remember that Dr. Godke made it very clear over the phone that he expected me to work my butt off and not to even think about returning to New Orleans to visit family and friends while I was in his program. But man, I have to say though, that first semester was pretty awesome. Yeah, I mean, I was going to all my classes, I was meeting new friends, I was getting good grades on my tests, and all was good. Until the day I got the phone call from my former boss at Tulane, where I had worked just up until the time I enrolled at LSU. And he wanted to know if I was going to class, and he told me that they were all looking for me up in Baton Rouge. He said someone by the name of Richard Denniston had called and wanted to know where in the hell I was. He strongly suggested that I immediately go check in with Dr. Godke. So the next morning, I ran up the stairs of the old Animal Science building and headed right into Dr. Godke's office. Now, mind you, this was the first time that I ever met Dr. Godke face-to-face, which by then was well into my first semester. And after threatening to expel me for not checking in with him sooner, and for goofing off the past several weeks, he told me rather sternly that I should get my butt out to St. Gabriel and go help Marius with the mares. And so off I went, boy, racing down the stairwell, and suddenly it hit me. I wasn't quite sure exactly what he meant by that, so I turned around and carefully went back in his office and I said, excuse me, Dr. Godke, but where is St. Gabriel? Who's Marius? What the hell is a man? And things went downhill from there. Yeah? I could see the look of pain that flashed over his face. Most likely as he was thinking that he made a huge mistake in letting me in the program. But Dr. Godke, I am extremely grateful and indebted to you, as you know, for letting me remain in the program and for allowing me the opportunity to earn my master's and my PhD under your guidance. Thank you. And congratulations again on this great day. Thanks. There's another very special graduate student here, that could not be here today, that very well wanted to. Dr. Weimer, Klaus Weimer, a lot of y'all know Klaus. He could not be here with us this afternoon to honor you in person, Dr. Godke. as he and his family are hosting a memorial service for his late father, who passed away quite suddenly this time last year. And as you know, and most of you know, that Klaus was extremely close with his dad, who was the only person that he admired and respected more than you, Dr. Godke. But he did record a few words that he would like to share at this moment. So if we could get that going. That's Klaus.
Where's the stick, Brett?
Dr. Godke and all of the Repro Rangers. I'll only take a minute of everybody's time. I want to thank you so much, Dr. Godke, for allowing me the opportunity to be a grad student at LSU. It's been an honor and a pleasure to have spent this wonderful time with you. I want you to know that you've touched my life in so many ways. In the 3.5 years that I spent at LSU, which was just but a brief moment in life, you touched me in so many ways that I can't even begin to put my finger on it. In fact, if I think about it, not a day goes by that I don't think about the principles and the ethics that you taught us, and how I've tried so hard to put this into all of our ways of working and how we teach embryologists, but above all, how we really have tried to structure our lives. Your work ethics, I have been instrumental in trying to teach to my own children. Dr. Godke, you saw in me something that nobody else would even take the time of day to see. I live in Washington State now, and it's a real irony because I applied to Washington State and I was told by the faculty members that I was in Washington State grad school quality, but yet you saw something in me and you gave me a chance. And I want to just thank you so much, Dr. Godke, for allowing me this opportunity to be an LSU Repro Ranger, to touch me in the way that you have, and for us to be able to now all give back in your honor is just truly amazing, that all of the students are with you today. And those that are not with you today, please know that you are in our heart, that we love you so much. You are in our thoughts and our prayers, and we all are so excited to be part of this wonderful group known as LSU Repro Rangers. Thank you so much, Dr. Godke. All the best to you. Much love. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Brett. Right now, I'd like to ask Bob's sister, Julie Wilson, to come up.
Thank you. If Dr. Godke could do this in 5 hours, I can do it in 8. I wanted to let you know, first of all, my name is Julie Godke Wilson. Dr. Godke is the oldest of 6 children, 5 boys, and then me, the only girl, and the youngest. No, not spoiled, just tough. And I know that's your next question. What I wanted to do is take just a minute to make this a little more personal with Dr. Godke, to give you an update on where he comes from and a little bit about the rest of his family that's here. By the way, I'm not sure, I think Richard mentioned it, we don't know him as Dr. Godke. We know him as not Bob, but Bobby. So for the rest of the day, if you'll all call him Bobby, that would be great. We'd think that was pretty funny. We grew up on a farm. It was 80 acres, 3.5 hours southwest of Chicago, in a town of about 13,000 people called Kewanee, Illinois. To help my parents keep their 6 children straight, they numbered us 1 through 6. Bobby being 1 and I was 6. Today, of course, we have today Bobby and his wife, Bonnie, and their 3 children, Beth, her husband, David, and their children. There they are, they're waving to us. Jennifer and her husband, Ken, and their children. John and his wife, Mary, and their children. Also, we have brother number 2, David. He's hiding. David, number 2, and his wife, Donna. Doug and his wife, Debbie. We have Rick and his wife Margaret and their daughter, and then me. And my husband and family were unable to make it, but I was at a New Orleans conference and on business, and so I brought my business associates. I brought with me Dr. Nancy Chang from Beijing, China, upstairs, and my business partner from Atlanta, Georgia, John Ranowski. We're all here, just like you are, to support Bobby, this event, to honor him with his peers and his students, his family, and his friends. Thank you for allowing us to be a part of this special day and to honor him like you are. But I wanted to take this opportunity to share some more personal things with you about Dr. Godke, Bobby. I'm sure that most of you that have worked with him closely have noticed some scars on his arms and his hands. I don't know if you know the story, but today you will. Bobby and David, number 2, were playing on the farm on the edge of a field and thought it would be kind of fun if they soaked some dirt clods in gasoline, lit them on fire, and threw them at each other. Bobby had on long sleeve shirts and it quickly became soaked in gas. When they lit the dirt balls on fire, Bobby's sleeves caught on fire. He started to run. David tackled him, rolled him into the dirt, and put out the fire. He was rushed to the hospital with burnt flesh hanging from his arms. He recovered, but that's how he got those scars. He learned at a young age about pain, about suffering, and how to tough it out and totally recover. We also are a family that learned how to turn lemons into lemonades. So Bobby and David tell the story that they're the reason and take claim to the stop, drop, and roll. Bobby, being number 1 in the family, forged the way for the first of us to lead a successful life with his siblings. Bobby led the way for all of us to go to SIU in Carbondale. That's another university. He said it was because of the strong ag program, but we all know it was because it was the farthest state-supported school from home. All of us 6 went and graduated from the same college. Bobby is the only one that earned his doctorate degree of us immediate siblings. Others did go on to get their masters. He led by example. Nothing was going to stop him. I'm not sure if you know, but his high school counselor told him he was not college material. He should go to trade school. That made him even more determined to succeed. We were taught by parents tenacity. You don't quit, you don't give up, you do not listen to others that tell you you cannot do something. You do have to be the best. You don't have to be the best, you just have to do your best. There's a big difference. You don't have to be the best, you have to do your best. Also, my parents taught us, if you tried harder than others, you would achieve more than most. Those who know our family know that we're proud of Bobby and his world-renowned accomplishments. We talk about his travels all over the world and his experiences. He embraces thinking outside the box. There are lines that he will not cross, which is sometimes a good idea. When my husband and I were having fertility problems, I asked for his suggestions. He gave us a list of suggested doctors to consult, but he refused to do the artificial insemination himself. Last weekend, he did tell me he should have rethought that. Thank goodness there are some boundaries. You know, we became LSU fans even though we were far away. So with him being a professor here, we have LSU gear. We've got the hats, we've got the everything. So we're fans of LSU. One year, brother number 5 in the back and myself were walking the barns at the Illinois State Fair. We were excited when we saw an LSU trunk. We stopped the young man near the trunk and said, "Are you an LSU student?" He said, "Yes, I am." We asked if he knew Dr. Godke. He put his head down and said, "Yes, that's one of the hardest teachers I've ever had." But then he looked up and said, "He's a real horse's ass." My brother and I just smiled and said, "Yes, he is with us." One time, Bobby told us that one of his students came to him and said, "Dr. Godke, there must be a mistake. You gave me an F." Bobby said he looked at the student and said, "No, there's no mistake. There's nothing lower than an F." Is there anyone here with an LSU trunk? That was funny. This is summed up pretty much by a direct quote from Bobby last weekend when I was able to spend some time with Bobby and Bonnie. We were reading some of the letters from the former students, and those students that had sent in letters that weren't able to be here. And at the end of reading one of the letters, Bobby said to me, "Damn, I didn't know I was this good." We want to say congratulations for all you've accomplished, both personally and professionally. How proud you must be, I swear I will get through this without crying, and how loved you are, and how loved you should feel to have all the people know and love and appreciate what you've done. Know also that there are many more that wanted to be here, including your mother, who's 92 and too frail to travel. She wanted you to know of her love and her proud feeling she has for her son, number 1. And cheers, brother, for all you've done. Congratulations.
Yeah, go.
Thank you, number 6. That one's about number 1. Before we continue with the program, Bobby, I wanted to let you know that I had to do it. I wanted to let you know that due to the generosity of all the people here, your former students that can't be here, your family, all your friends, your colleagues, you have approximately $113,000 in that scholarship. With that, which Bob? John, I'm sorry.
That's okay. My name is John Godke. I'm son number 3. My father's voice is not as strong as it once was, but I just wanted to say a quick thank you to everybody who had the opportunity to come. Just hearing the comments tonight, it has become very clear that my father has 2 families. My sisters and I represent one, and clearly he has this whole other family that represents his former students and people that loved him. And this is a whole family that I don't really know that well, but hearing some of the stories, I can see that there are some similarities. I never had the opportunity to take one of my father's classes, although he asked me once if I would, and hearing the stories tonight, clearly I made the right call by saying I work as a critical care doctor, and a lot of the people that I take care of are too ill to talk because they're in a coma or they're on a life support machine or a ventilator. And I like to think that you can learn a lot about a person by understanding their family. How they interact, how they talk when they come together at a time of crisis. And I can just say that although I don't know much about my dad's other family, I can see with you all here tonight that he has left quite a legacy, and his career has meant so much to so many people. And so for the Godke family, I'd like to say thank you to everybody.
Thank you, John. I'd like to turn the closing remarks over to Dr. Navarre. She's our interim head of the School of Animal Sciences.
Thank you. Quite an honor to be here. And with all due respect, there would be no way I could call you Bobby, so you always Dr. Godke. I will tell one final quick story that I heard recently. One of my mentors, Alan Ursell, who's a veterinarian at Texas A&M, told me that when he was here in undergraduate, he took an endocrinology course and he learned about prostoganglions. And went on, got into veterinary school, and was in a class at veterinary school, and in walks this fellow named Godke talking about prostaglandins, and he couldn't understand, who is this guy who doesn't even know how to say prostoganglion. And he said, little did I know that he was world renowned and got to know you and respect you. And so on behalf of everyone who's here and everyone who couldn't be here, the hundreds of people all over the world that you have touched and inspired, I just want to say thank you. And thank everyone for coming here. Thank you for contributing to the scholarship, which is going to continue to make sure that students continue on. I'm going to turn things over. Dr. Bondiolia is going to give tours of our new facility. And again, thank you very much for being here.
Hello, some of you know me. My name is Kim Bondiola. I'm one of the animal science faculty that has a laboratory here in this building. I had the pleasure of working with Dr. Godke and sharing the facilities and the resources out at St. Gabriel for approximately 10 years from the time I came here until he decided to retire. But I've known Dr. Godke since I myself was a graduate student. Everybody in this industry does. Prior to coming to LSU, I worked in industry, primarily in the embryo transfer industry and the biotechnology industry. And I can assure you that Dr. Godke's influence extends well beyond the university and the academic field, and that everybody in this industry, embryo transfer industry, and animal biotechnology industry knows who Bob Godke is, no doubt. So today we do want to take this opportunity to show off this building a little bit, and so we're going to do some tours. I've got some students here. I think they're still here. I don't know where they are. And, Brittany and Fabian and Emilio and Aaron is here. They're kind of here available to kind of very informally show people around and show off this building a little bit in the laboratory space. I was thinking maybe what we really need to do is probably spread this group out a little bit. The important stuff, the food and the liquor, is on this floor and it's over there. Those of you who really do want to see the laboratories, why don't we convene upstairs and we'll start up there. And don't think you don't have to do it right now. We'll be here for a while. If you want to go get a drink, get something to eat, and the student will be here to do this over a period of time, so you don't have to do it right now. It's going to be very informal, and we'll walk you around and show you.